All right. Today we're moving on to the next section called 6.8. I anticipate this one being pretty easy. We are simply doing percents to decimals. And we're going to first start by looking at a little survey. This is a pie graph, and in 2014, wrote that number really badly. In 2014, they did a study on Americans that give to charity. And if we look, one of these was in here, and the other side, we will get to pie charts actually later in this section, but I think it's likely that most of us are fairly familiar. And it turns out that 95.8% do not donate. And 4.2% donate. So on our little chart we can say not donate and donate. And our question here is, how do we write these percents as a decimal? So recall again that a decimal organizes numbers according to place value. For example, we have the number 2,472 and 372 tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Each of these numbers in this place has a separate place value. And remember, a percent is only part of a whole when it's 100. Right? So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about how to write percents as decimals. Now, I think a lot of us likely already know how to do this, but there are some tricks and some little things that can catch us up. For example, if I was going to take the percent of 50% and I was going to write it as a decimal, we would know that if I wanted, I could write this as 50 out of 100, and then I could simplify it down into 1/2, and then I could divide 1 divided by 2, and I could go and find that it is indeed 0.5 as a decimal. That's a lot of steps, and there's way easier ways to do this. If I'm just taking this 50% and writing it as a decimal, all I have to really do is get rid of the percent. So if I take 50%, I would write it as 50, and then my decimal point would go right at the beginning of the percent, right at where the tens are in my percentage. So I would then write, I shouldn't have put a dot there, I would put a 0.50. And then from there I just simplify it, and I know that when I'm writing out my decimals, I don't need this last 0. So my decimal would just go to 0.5. Much easier that way. Okay, let's look at a couple more examples. Example 1. Let's do example 2 over here. This time let's take a look at 27%. Okay, so to do this, all I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the percentage, 27, and then I am going to put that decimal right in front of where the tens are. So I get 0.27. Now at this one, I have it completely simplified already, so I'm good to go. The one tricky thing that can happen, I think I can probably fit a couple more examples on this page, is I have to be careful of my place values. For example, if I take the number, let's take the example up here of 4.2% that was donated. How would I turn that into a decimal? 4.2%. All right, here, oops, got something underneath my paper. Whatever, can't find it. And I'm going to remove the percentage. And then the next step is when I put that decimal point. Now I'm going to ignore the decimal point here. In fact, I'm going to get rid of it. But I need to put the decimal point in front of where the tenths place is. This is the ones. So in fact, I can put a 0 out front and write this as the same. 04.2 is the same as 4.2 based on how our decimal theory goes. But this time, I need to put that decimal here. So I would put 0.042. And I can't have two decimals inside of the same number. It doesn't make any sense. So my number here would be 0.042. And that actually kind of makes sense, because if I think of this as 4 parts out of 100, or 4.2 parts out of 100, that's exactly what this is. It's saying I have no tenths, but I have 4 hundredths. 4 hundredths, which are the same as my percentage here. So this is how I would take that number and turn it into a percent. Notice I also bring that 2 down and I keep it with us. Let's take a look at one final example and then we'll get you started, because I don't think these are particularly difficult once you get it. Let's take a look. Let me see what some of the examples that they give us. We're going to write 2.7% as a decimal. All right, let's drop the percentage. Then I'm going to write this as a decimal. Remember that I need to put that 0 out front because I'm dealing with the ones. So I do have 0.027. Now, for these, you don't have to show your work. Because pretty much all of these steps can be done in your head. Not too bad. Good luck, and finish this one quick.